I'm with David Koren from ERAN. Now, David, what is ERAN?
ERAN is the kind of the national hotline in Israel for everything and suicide prevention as well, but it's for all kind of helpline for everything. There is no issue that we are not dealing with over the phone and over the internet. And suicide is one of them. Is I would say the extreme of it. But we're having people are calling for us for any kind of problem within the family, outside of the family, within the person is himself. Situation of work, situation of education, kids, marriage, relationship, death, of course, sexual abuse and sexual when somebody doesn't really know what is his,
Orientation.
Yeah. So pretty much everything. And we're working with 1,100 volunteers right now from 12 different places in Israel. Any places like this in Tel Aviv, we have around 100 volunteers who are operating 24 hours a day. This is what we're doing for quite some 43 years already.
So when somebody calls you, are they really in a desperate situation to call you in the first place?
Sometimes they are in a very desperate situation, but not all the time. There are people who calls us just when they are, having a bad day, wants to consult with us an issue within the family or whatever, and they're not depressed or it's a line, it's a place that people can talk about everything. But there are a lot of people who are calling where they are in deep stress, in depression, people who are suffering from mental problems. So it's a mix, diversion.
And how many threatened suicides do you deal with a year?
Within a year, we have something like 4,000 calls that suicide is part of the call. But if I want to give you like a little bit more precise number, something like 700 to 800 suicide attempt or suicide calls, what we call, in a year, which is a little bit more than 2 a day, 2 for 1 day, which are called that the person who call either before suicide attempt or during suicide attempt, or not after, because he still, but after, let's say, he took all the pills and he just, on the process to be there. So there are between 700 to 800 calls a year, which is quite a lot.
How many people die of suicide in Israel?
It's a little bit over or around 500 people a year, and it's pretty much steady. Israel is trying now to reduce this number, and actually the good news is like, for instance, the army start to reduce the numbers of soldiers who commit suicide over the last few years, which is good news. And Israel as a state trying to put it on the agenda to reduce the number of, to go down from the 500 people who commit suicide a year, which is quite a lot.
Does those figures include the Palestinian Authority, or is that just Israel itself?
No, it doesn't include the Palestinian Authority. It does include the Israeli who lives in the territories, but it doesn't include the Palestinian Authority.
Now, who is the most at risk?
It's a good question. Actually, there are two groups. One is the not teenager, but young people before, let's say, under the age of 30, who are, their way of thinking is quite often like black and white. If I didn't do well in my math exam, it's the end of the world. If the girlfriend left a teenager, is the end of the world, kind of. So this is a group at risk, and on the other scale, the elderly. The elderly, there are elderly who commit suicide because of loneliness, lack of what else can I expected from whatever if someone is very sick or so these are the two groups that are more at risk. Between there are more girls who are having suicide attempt, but more boys are
succeeding.
Yeah. Sometimes suicide attempt is a way of asking for help, but not all the times.
Does poverty make a difference?
Poverty is one of the... I'll tell you what. Poverty is one of the things that makes life harder. But to make the connection between poverty and suicide attempt is very dangerous. What we can see, the stage where someone is making this, somebody lost his job, or that the state of his financial situation went down dramatically, is a dangerous time. But if you compare poor people with middle class or whatever, it's the change put the person in at risk period of time, but not actually the poor people. They're not commit suicide more than average people.
What are some of the facts of suicide?
Israel is very much, in a normal, the Western world is.
Are you branches all around the country?
Yeah, we are, all around. It's the one that all the way down in south is Beersheba, which is not all... but we are from Beersheba in the south all the way to Kiryat Shmona in the north. But actually, the fact is that the callers, when they call, they will get the response from whoever is free right now. So in other words, it doesn't really matter where the people who are answering are sitting in Tel Aviv or in Beersheba. They are kind of sitting in the same service, and the fact that we're having like 12 different places is to be able to gather so many volunteers from each community. And a volunteer will not travel from one city to another to do his shift. So we're pretty much all over. Yeah.
And what sort of languages are people calling you in?
Well, mainly Hebrew. Mainly Hebrew. Our services is also in Arabic, in Russian, and also in English. But in English is depend on whether the volunteer can carry the conversation in English. If he's not, we can call back to the person who needs the English support. But mainly is Hebrew, and then Arabic and Russian. Those are the three languages that we're giving our services, and also on the internet. It's like on the chat, emails, and forum, which is three ways of helping people over the net, over the internet.
So what happens when somebody actually contacts you?
There's all kind of scenarios. I mean, person can call us and say, I want to share with you an issue with a family, or I had a bad day, or people that are lonely. There is a lot of lonely people, lonely that I want to talk to someone. There is no one I can talk to. And every calls are been getting like personal care, and every call been reviewed afterwards by supervisor, then in our framework, and the volunteers is getting feedback to his response to his call.
Are you government funded, or are you a charity?
We're charity, yeah, we're charity, and we're getting very, very little support from the government. Actually, something like 3% of our budget, 3-4% of our budget coming from the government. 95% or whatever is from people who are donate to us, charity, foundation, business sector from the country and from outside of the country. But it's very, very hard to get donor to support us, and we are trying to think how we can extend our donation, because at the time we are short in, I would say, 500 volunteers that we need to have in at least 2 different places, which we are not able to open just because of lack of funding. That's it.
Now, Facebook gave you a big accolade just recently. What was that?
Facebook realized that they need, when someone is on Facebook is expressing suicide thought or whatever, Facebook have a way of advising the people to call us, to contact us. So this is like the agreement that we have with Facebook, but the responsibility to approach us is on the person himself. So Facebook will do the connection between to the person that they are thinking that maybe they can get a help with ERAN, but then it's their responsibility to approach us. So that's what we're having with Facebook. We have Facebook, of course, but it's not for support. It's for sharing information, for a little bit of PR. What Facebook is all about.
How many calls a year do you get?
Over the last year, we had a little bit over 160,000, and this year we probably will be much more than this because of there are much more this year, and if we would have had more volunteers, we probably would have get another 100,000 for sure. There are times that we are not able to respond to all the callers, mainly at night.
Now, with the conflict that's happened in Gaza, do you see the suicide rate going up or down during those times?
Well, actually a little bit down, just for the period of the war. Usually on times like this, people are coming together, so to speak, and for the most part, it's a little bit goes down for a very short time. But there are much more people who calls for stress. Yeah, people who are in stress, who are in fears, people who are express fear to their loved one who are in danger, whatever. So there are a lot, and people who calls for information as well, what we should do, stuff like this.
As an organization, do you have to step in if you feel that someone is in imminent danger?
Yeah, if someone is in imminent danger, we will usually, our call is like unanimous and one times. In such a situation, what we will do, we will make sure that he will get help, medical or whatever, that his life will be safe. So we will send somebody to him. We will take him, not our volunteers, but we'll make sure that he's been taken to the hospital or whatever help he might need. And before this, we will continue our dialogue with him.
Do you get any good stories of people who've been saved afterwards?
Yeah, there are. It's an interesting one because we're getting, sometimes we don't know. Like people calls and we know that we saved them, and then we don't hear anything. So the volunteers sometimes think, I hope he's good, but I really don't know. And sometimes after whatever, we're getting like a letter or a call, and those letters and call are very rewarding. There are some letters that are so, and sometimes we meet them not on the street, but I went once to a business, a store, and I was, negotiating for something for ERAN. And the person that I was negotiating with, after he realized where I'm from, he was quiet, and then he said, everything for you. He said, what? Yeah, I'll do everything for you. I said, what? You saved my life a couple of years ago. And he gave me a story, and you know, it's just so happened that it's so rewarding, it's so hard, you know, it's a big reward for service to meet those people. I mean, he's in a totally different place now. He is having his family, and he just had a very, very rough time, and we saved him. And we have volunteers that went through, like we had a volunteers one that her son was commit suicide. And she realized that if her son would have called our service, he would have been with us today. So she said, this is my contribution to the other people in memory of him, that I'm here with ERAN, with you, helping other people. But often we don't hear, and we are, you know, wondering where they are.
And what's your website for people who'd like to know more about your work?
Well, it's ERAN, ERAN.org.il, and it's also can be reached through smartphones. People can get to our website and also get help through the chat, both from smartphone and from the web, and also get information also on the Facebook. On the Facebook, it's not ERAN, it's ERAN כל אחד יכול לעזור. So just write ERAN כל אחד יכול לעזור, and just, you know, a punch like, and you'll get information and all kind of stuff about us.
Okay, David, thank you very much.
You're welcome.